Well, again, I'm trying to get back on track and get back to my roots of talking more about foreign policy and America's wars in the Middle East. And I guess we should call her President-elect Kamala Harris, the person who was picked by the U.S. media to be the next president. Of course, Joe Biden is a placeholder if Trump loses his legal battles, which the Trump team's sounding very confident about that, but I don't want to get into that today. I've talked enough about Trump legal stuff. I'll wait until we have more details. And I'm going to try again tomorrow not to talk about Trump legal battles. But Kamala Harris was interviewed by, I believe the magazine is Arab American Weekly, or maybe it's Arab American Monthly, a publication I had not been familiar with, but unsurprisingly, they asked her about, what I think is the most important issues, and that is foreign policy. And I have to say, it was actually, but I read a write-up of it at Middle East Eye, and there were some interesting nuggets in there. Because I honestly didn't know exactly what she would say, because I don't know which interest groups are necessarily that close to Biden and Harris, because that's how American foreign policy works, is that you essentially have foreign lobbies that determine what America does overseas. And under the Trump administration, the two strong lobbies were Israel and Saudi Arabia. And personally, I don't really care that much about Israel. What happens inside Israel, I think that what they do is their business. I've heard of very strong cases that one should 100% support one side or the other, that whether it be the Jews or the Arabs there, and people are very passionate about it. Personally, I just don't think that should be America's fight. It's a very messy situation with a lot of history, and there's certainly bad blood amongst both sides. And Trump came down very strong on the side of the Israelis and the Israeli government, and trying to push for more annexation and things like that. So I think easily the most pro-Israel president since the refounding of Israel in 1948. Other than, I guess you could say, maybe Truman, because if Truman hadn't been a big Israel guy, Israel wouldn't have been successfully founded anyway. But Trump, heavily supported Israeli expansion in these last 4 years, and he will continue to do so for the next 4 years. Harris, however, pretty much sounded like she was just getting back to the Obama thing, which a lot of people think that Obama and the Democrats are like anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian, which, I mean, is not exactly true. I mean, they're pro-PLO. And the PLO is, I wouldn't call them entirely a puppet regime of Israel, but they're kind of controlled opposition. That's what I'd say. That's probably the best way to describe the PLO. If you were, say, a Palestinian living in the West Bank or Gaza, the PLO is not your friend, but I guess they're less big of a threat than Netanyahu is to you, because the PLO, they're bad guys. Abbas is, of course, a dictator. I think he stopped having elections after 2005. There are people in the West Bank now who are almost old enough to vote who were not alive when Abbas last ran for re-election. So, do I think that they're taking the right position? They're going back to the strong two-state solution thing. Do I think that there's ever going to be a two-state solution? No, people have been talking about that since 1948. It's not going to happen. So, I'm pretty pessimistic when it comes to the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. I don't think that anyone's ever going to be happy there. There's never going to be a good situation. So that's that. Now there is one bright spot in this interview, and I guess I'll get to that and get to the sort of the worst part of the interview last. The bright spot is that Harris actually says that she really wants to end the war in Yemen that was started by Barack Obama. I guess the thing is, because there was a lot of speculation once Trump got in, that perhaps then Democrats would start speaking out more about the war in Yemen, because they couldn't under Obama because Obama was their guy. But the war in Yemen is like one of the most egregious, genocides and series of crimes against humanity perpetrated in the 21st century. It's really, really hard to ignore if you know what's going on. And they still did not push hard on Trump to get rid of it. I mean, the people who were trying to end the war in Yemen were like Bernie Sanders and Mike Lee. So people who are kind of on the fringes of their party and a little, not establishment. I mean, Bernie's not even a Democrat. So, that's about all you need to know. The Democrats were not particularly interested in ending Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen, which, of course, could not exist without American support. Now, you can speculate, why that is. I guess you could say Raytheon had a lot to do with it, since, Raytheon were the ones making the bombs that we were selling to Saudi Arabia, that they were continually dropping on herds of sheep and grain silos and water treatment plants. But for whatever reason, maybe now because Trump was president for 4 years, Harris can make the argument that, Yemen is Trump's war and not Obama's war. And so, but I mean, she came out pretty strong in this interview and said that the war in Yemen needs to end. That's a very positive thing to me. I don't care about what her other politics are. If she says that, that is unquestionably a good thing. That is that's a win for humanity. And it seems like this is, Harris, I guess, is not as in bed with Saudi interests, which just means that she's in bed with other interests, of course. Trump went, is one of the most heavily pro-Saudi presidents, like I said, very similar to how he was very pro-Israel. Like all U.S. presidents are typically pro-Saudi and pro-Israel because those are, client states of the U.S., particularly Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia would not exist without U.S. support. Saudi Arabia would have gone down the drain a long time ago. But the U.S. tends to balance things out a little bit more in the Middle East. They tend to, fund every side of every conflict in the Middle East, to the point to where you have CIA-backed troops fighting Department of Defense-backed troops in all these different wars, like in Syria. And so it's unclear exactly what interest groups, Harris is beholden to at this point. But, probably the worst thing to come out of this interview was her commentary on Syria. It's very, very concerning because, the greatest thing that Trump did as president, by far, was ending U.S. support for ISIS in Syria. ISIS, as Trump correctly said during the campaign, when he was running, he said Barack Obama invented ISIS. And people tried to get him to, come down from that and say, well, is that some kind of metaphor? He's like, no, I mean it literally. Barack Obama invented ISIS. And now, while that's not entirely true, it is true that ISIS only got to be as powerful as it was because of Barack Obama. The CIA, under him, heavily funded ISIS and, ran them guns and things and helped them try and topple Assad. And then they got a little out of control and went into Iraq, too. And then they had to be reined in by the U.S., launching a third Iraq war to try and clean them up and push them back into Syria. But they were still being funded by the CIA, which is a rather peculiar arrangement. And so Trump, when he came in, walked into the CIA and he said, what are you guys doing? You look like a bunch of schmucks. Stop giving these idiots money. And then they did, and then suddenly ISIS was defeated, like magic. And the reason why I'm concerned that under a potential Biden-Harris administration or a Harris-Biden administration, that this, might change is that, she went back to the very, creepy Obama/Bush era language of, well, we need to support our partners in Syria in bringing about democratic change or something like that, and we want to support democracy. And of course, democracy is always code for wars or American puppet governments, all these things, coups. And so whenever you hear democracy being spoken about by a member of the American establishment, you need to, hide under your desk, duck and cover, because the bombs are going to start dropping. And Obama did, want to take even greater action in Syria than he did. And thankfully, Congress actually did try and stop him back then. So I hope that at this point, we wouldn't go back to, there's no chance of a full invasion of Syria. But, supporting ISIS or other so-called moderate rebels in Syria would not be a good thing. So ending the suffering of the people in Yemen and increasing the suffering of the people in Syria That's not. I can't really calculate if that would be a net win or a net loss. I mean, frankly, uh, uh, in order for me to really, get excited about a president, we would need to see a net reduction in suffering. And I feel like at first, there was some excitement that Trump would do that. I think that, ending the ISIS stuff was a great achievement. But again, he kept supporting the war in Yemen, and it's kind of hard to cheer on Trump as some kind of anti-war president when you continue to support that stuff. Now, of course, Trump just fired a bunch of people at the Pentagon, which, not only would signal that he has no plans on leaving the White House, because, again, if he thought he was going to lose his legal challenges and be kicked out in January, why bother putting in a new, defense secretary and replacing all the undersecretaries, the high-level staff, the bureaucrats at the Pentagon? Or is there something else that Trump's concerned about, something that might be more immediate regarding the Department of Defense? We were hearing yesterday, the rumors yesterday I was talking about with the Iran war. But maybe there is, something more planned at this point. I mean, I don't know what to make of it yet. I don't know if it's going to be some kind of last-minute troop withdrawal, which again might just be, wishful thinking on my part. But as time moves along, I kind of feel like I have to watch. You have to watch the left and the right hand here, and kind of literally. You need to watch the right in what Trump is doing, and the left in what Biden, but mostly Harris, is talking about foreign policy-wise, because I do not know where this is going to end up. The court battle is ongoing. Giuliani sounds very confident, but I haven't seen their stuff. I almost feel like I should do like a back-to-back foreign policy episode on what Biden and Harris are talking about, what Trump and Pence are talking about, and Pompeo and all these people, and whoever the Biden folks start selecting to be their potential Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, if they're to be ultimately elected. So I'll try and link that story for Middle East Eye. So if you get anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.